You don't, this isn't, no, this, okay, wow. So this watch, this is the Oris Aquis Pro 4000 meters. It's a monstrous, chunky, overbuilt, over-engineered, over-the-top beauty. When I talk about watches, sometimes I say something like, hey, it's not for everyone. And that's my way of saying some people just aren't gonna like this and most people don't need it, and that's okay. But here, instead of saying it's not for everyone, I'm going to say it's not for anyone. This watch, this is for no one. Functionally, at least. Functionally, this doesn't make sense, and I'll get to why. But emotionally? Emotionally, you might need this. This might finally be the thing that brings you lasting happiness. So, congratulations, you might have finally found your grail. Oris announced this watch in August 2023, and just like with the Pro Pilot Kermit, it's a watch that nobody was asking for. There wasn't an obvious demand before these watches existed, but maybe that's something Oris is really good at, uncovering demands. Although I do think that this big deep diver makes more sense than a Pilot watch with Kermit the Frog on it. That one, that came out of nowhere, and it's great. Oris has a lot of dive watches. It has its more vintagey, classically styled collection, just called Diver, and then there's the more modern collection called Aquis. There's a huge range of variety in the Aquis line, more than 60 variants of sizes, colors, straps, and movements. And now, for the first time, we have the King Aquis, the Pro 4000 meters. This is the new top-of-the-line watch, and just like with any top-of-the-line product, it's more than you need and maybe just what you want. So what is it? It's a titanium watch that's 49.5 millimeters wide, 55 millimeters long from lug to lug, and 23.6 millimeters thick. It weighs 195 grams and is water resistant to 4,000 meters. That's 4 kilometers. We'll get into that. It uses the in-house Oris Caliber 400, which has 120 hours of power reserve. That's 5 days. We'll also get into that. It costs $6,200. Okay, now about the size. This is the largest watch that Oris makes. I think that distinction previously belonged to the Pro Pilot altimeter that I reviewed a few months ago. 47 millimeters wide and 23 millimeters thick. Stupid big, just absurd. But the Aquis Pro 4000 is just a little more stupider. The size is, but that doesn't mean I don't like the watch. Look at this thing on my 7-inch wrist. You know, it looks good enough from the top. Big, but 50 millimeters wide and 55 millimeters long. It's okay, wearable. It's the thickness, the 23.6 millimeter thickness. That's where things get comedic. And that's a common reaction that people have with this thickness. They see it and then they laugh. 24 millimeters goes beyond saying, oh, that's thick, and into the realm where laughing is the only response. Laughing or crying, depending on the color of your chakras. And it's not just the case that's thick. The sapphire crystal extends 4 millimeters above the ceramic bezel. I think this is the proudest crystal I've ever seen on a modern watch. It really wants you to notice it, and I do. I see you, crystal, and I appreciate you. The weight is also a little surprising, 195 grams on a rubber strap. This might be the heaviest titanium watch I've worn. Titanium is 40% lighter than steel, and yet the Pro 4000 is pretty damn heavy, top heavy. Now, I'm not saying that this is uncomfortable. It's actually pretty good on the wrist, the 7-inch wrist. I've worn it for several days in a row, all day, because I don't really want to take it off. I never want to take it off. The rubber strap is nice, it's flexible, just a little sticky, pretty good combo. If it was too sticky or too smooth, or if it was too stiff or too flexible, it just wouldn't work with a watch with this massiveness. But the balance is right on this. This is a measure to cut kind of strap. Sort of. One side has a pin and buckle, the other you cut, but I didn't really need to cut this because the buckle allows for adjustment and because there's this cool adjustment system in the clasp. On the outside of the deploying clasp are buttons that let you adjust the length in 5 positions with 4 millimeters between each position. This is very good, mucho good. I always like when you can adjust the length of a strap or bracelet without taking the watch off. The Oris Caliber 400 is powering the Pro 4000. It's a new in-house movement from Oris. Now, I have mixed feelings about in-house movements. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Your in-house movement better do something special if it's going to be more difficult and more expensive to service. And this Oris 400 makes a good case for being in-house. First, there's the 120 hours of power reserve. Wind it fully and this thing will run for 5 days without being worn or wound again. That's really good. And the other feature, I guess it's a feature, is that all caliber 400 movements have a 10-year warranty from Oris. To me, that really addresses my concerns that some new in-house movements just haven't been time tested. With a 10-year warranty, it seems like Oris is saying, we're very confident that this thing is good and we want you to be confident too. I dig that. Now, why does this watch exist? Here we have a dive watch that's resistant to water pressure at 4,000 meters in the ocean or a very big swimming pool, like big. The watch also has a helium escape valve. Curious. Here's the thing with this water resistance. No human could survive in the water at 4 kilometers, not 2 kilometers either, not 1 kilometer. No human has been in the water at any depth even close to that, and survived, I guess. There's no reason a watch worn on someone's wrist would need this kind of depth rating. Now, this watch could be in a submersible at that depth, and that is where the helium escape valve comes in. When a person is in a deep underwater diving bell or a submersible, they have to breathe a mixture of oxygen and helium. It's called heliox. This prevents decompression sickness and, death. And helium atoms will get into a watch, and if the helium can't get out, the watch will literally pop open on decompression. So there's this valve to let helium escape in a controlled way. Another safety mechanism is the bezel locking system. The bezel is unidirectional and has 120 clicks. And to turn it, you first have to pull up on the black rubber ring around the bezel. Then you can turn the entire bezel and push the rubber ring back down when you want to lock it in place. Between the gaps in the rubber ring is some text etched that reads, "Rotation Safety System, tested to 4,000 meters. But if you're in a submersible at 4,000 meters and breathing heliox, you aren't going to be in the water at all. You better not be. So you don't actually need this kind of water resistance. It serves no purpose way down deep physically. Way down deep emotionally, though, you could argue that it does serve a purpose. This is fun. Big watches are fun, and so are ones that are just interesting, regardless of the size. That's what she keeps telling me anyway. Do you need the water resistance? No. Do you need the bezel locking system? No. The helium escape valve? No. The huge crystal, the bicolor lume, the watch itself? None of it. You don't need it. You can call this a tool watch, but that just makes you sound like the tool, not the watch. This is a toy, and that's okay. It's more than okay. It's great. It's great that there are toys like this which appeal to our interest in engineering and problem solving and aesthetic design and our desire to spend obscene amounts of money and act all fancy. Nobody was asking for this watch, but here it is. And I'll bet there are quite a few people who are looking at this and thinking very dangerous thoughts, and I am one of those people.